Let's see what else. Sword of Feast and Famine on the cross side as well. Just a way to actually kill them.
Yeah, I mean, Squadron Hawk is usually pretty good against Vampires decks too.
Yeah, not necessarily. A lot of their guys just have too much toughness to really block down effectively. And like the only ones that do die are like, looking at this list, the only ones that die 1-for-1 to Squadron are Viscera Seer, which might not get into combat, and Bloodghast that doesn't really matter.
That's true.
And it also just gets Arc Trail a lot.
Right, yeah. Our Arc Trail certainly can be a complete blowout.
If Hero gets live, then it's obviously going to win the game, but I don't really see that happening against this 7 removal suite with Gatekeepers too.
In the meantime, congratulations to our 6 months of premium winner, 2 Happy Daggers. Congratulations, you just won 6 months of free premium. It'll be awarded to you pretty shortly. If you want to stay tuned for that within the next couple days, you can check out all the great articles on Star City Games Premium, including potentially some tournament reports from these players. A lot of interesting decks played here at the Star City Games Open Series Cincinnati, including Cobblade, which is a deck that's completely retooled from the old Cobblade. We've seen some new versions of Vampires, the interesting Jund deck. Who knows what's going to be up on the main site? In addition to, of course, all the great regular articles by Chapin and Brad Nelson, Mike Flores, Michael Jacob, and video content too. Yesterday, if you were here, we played some of the videos from Brian Kibler and Michael Jacob's most recent articles, and those videos are just incredible.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, teach you a lot about Magic. So congratulations to Happy Daggers, and stay tuned for the finals, where we'll be giving away a badge to Gen Con.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Gen Con is going to be awesome this year. Usually, Gen Con's already amazing as is, and then you just have the fact that there's nationals there.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this.
Yeah.
When I qualified when I made top 8 of regionals, I was like, yes, I now get to go to Gen Con. I'm like, never been able to go to the real Gen Con before, so pretty excited to be able to go.
Yeah. Now you can go to Fogos there too.
Yeah, so anyway, looking at the matchup, okay. Yeah, like you said, Hero is going to be a big card here, but if it survives, that's the big if, right?
Right.
Seems unlikely.
I think post-board the Callboy deck actually gains a lot, but we'll see. The Vampires deck doesn't really gain that much out of the board in this matchup. Just maybe like Mimic Vat, Tectonic Edge, maybe the Go for the Throat, but the Callboy deck gets Day of Judgment and Mental Missteps, Core Firewalkers, Celestial Purge. Like, in theory, every card in its sideboard could be good except for maybe Flash Freeze.
Yeah, it's definitely some good sideboard cards here. Also, I mean, it just comes down to play skill too. What modes the players choose to take, what paths to victory they want to use. I mean, if we saw Matthew be pretty aggressive with his removal in the last game, if he say Burns thought of his removal early, we could see a Hero Bladehold start closing down the game or something like that.
Yeah, just a late Hero just ends the game somehow.
And then Elspeth Tyrell, I think, is going to be brutal. Gideon and Elspeth, both of those are going to be incredible.
That's where the game 1 at least is going to end, is whether Gideon or Elspeth gets going.
Yeah, exactly. So looks like one player is re-sleeving before the final match.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of time. No, I'm looking all around me, and the Standard Open is just finishing with this last match, but the Legacy Open is just about to begin.
As are the draft opens.
Yeah, as are the 2 draft opens. People drafting the brand new M12 set. A lot of people I don't think know how to draft this set yet. And the players who come out here and know how to draft will really be rewarded for it.
Definitely. It's, people always say, oh, it's core set limit. You just open a Bomb, you open a Titan, you open a Planeswalker, or whatever. That's really not how it is. Yeah, sure, Great Titan's really hard to beat, but maybe you're just dying to core Merfolk in this set by the time that it comes down.
I mean, you might just be dead. You might just get it mana leaked.
Yeah.
Like, so many things can happen. I mean, Draft Open 1 already filled. Players were so excited about it. It filled within probably 20 minutes of the site opening.
Yeah, they're all sitting down right over there as we speak.
Yeah, it's insane. Now, have you drafted this format much yet?
I've done a couple drafts.
Same.
But, I mean, the drafts that I did, ended up doing really well. Just, I may or may not have played 4 over the 2 drafts. My decks combined 4 vanilla 2/1s for 2, and a couple more Alabaster Mages that were pretty close to vanilla 2/1s for 2 a lot of the time. Yeah, like I had multiple games where 2/1s for 2 served for like 14 to 16 damage.
I mean,
yeah.
Silvercoat Lion was one of my favorite cards in M11. So
yeah, you don't even get that guy this time around. You're lucky to have him.
Yeah,
yeah. Silvercoat Lion, cool. You get an extra toughness. Must be nice.
Yeah. I mean, M11 was one of my favorite draft formats of all time.
It was really good.
And M11 was absolutely incredible. If I could only draft one set forever, I mean, M11 would be on my short list of sets to pick from. There's just a lot of variety there.
Are we talking one set or are we talking a block? Just one set?
Yeah, one set.
Not Cold Snap? Definitely not Cold Snap.
Definitely not Cold Snap. I mean, Rise of Eldrazi is really high up there, too.
Oh, no, that format.
You don't like Rise?
After, like, your first 40 drafts, you just kind of went through and you're like, well, there's, like, 8 decks, and you just kind of draft your deck. And the decks were all the same every time.
You were there for, the Conley Woods double Emrakul triple Living Destiny deck,
yes,
right?
that happens sometimes, and I was there for the time that my deck was red-black Raid Bombardment. I cast Devastating Summons for 1 with 5 lands in play because I wanted to trigger Raid Bombardment.
Yeah, you were the biggest, you were the biggest degenerate with your deck picks. You would, like, pick Raid Bombardment really early.
Yeah,
and set up for that archetype.
Open my pack. It's like, oh, I guess there's a Stagger Shock. I have to take over this Raid Bombardment. Open wheels. Like, next pick is like Vendetta or Raid Bombardment. Okay, Raid Bombardment. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of good formats out there, but M11 was excellent. M12, from the little bit I've played with it, is shaping up to be similarly interesting. It's a very aggressive format.
Yes.
So I wrote about it in my article last week. It's not quite Zendikar, but it's certainly in the same vein. Quick format, you can kill them before their bombs come online.
Right.
And
but you can also, draft things like Amping Cutthroat and try and block, at least.
I think that...
Not like Zendikar, where, you have Pillar Field Ox that would just get run over by, landfall, my guy's a 4/4 attack. Great.
Yeah, that changes significantly. Plus, like I said yesterday, you can block now too, which is a big deal. In Zendikar, you just could never block because landfall made all your guys bigger on your turn.
Right.
Where now, the guys trade off for the will. In fact, almost all the 3-drops trade off with the 2-drops. So there's an interesting curve down thing. Only Blood Ogre with Bloodthirst and Benelish Veteran.
Benelish Veteran,
yeah. Don't trade off with the playable 2-drops.
Yeah, it's definitely possible for people to trade down if they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to make a lot of considerations in attacks going into the mid-game.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, like I said, you can play a more defensive deck. I think the big defining factor is traditionally in core set limited, if you just like take good cards, right? You're just like picking cards, you'll end up with like a slower mid-range control deck.
Which is usually fine.
But in M12, I think the cards lean so much towards beatdown that if you just like take like generic cards or like decent cards in your colors, you'll actually end up with a beatdown deck because you'll have like a bunch of like Goblin Pikers, Coral Merfolks, or you'll end up with a slow mid-range deck that can't ever win.
Well, I don't know. I think that that's only true if you're drafting some of the other colors. I think with like green, you can definitely end up with this mid-range that wins. It kind of feels like that sort of dinosaurs role where like you play a couple of guys up the curve and then on 5 you play a 4/4 and they're like, well, that's bigger than every creature in my deck. Now on 6 you play like a 4/4 and they're like, that's also bigger than every creature in my deck. And then the next turn you play like what was the guy? I keep forgetting the name of the spider. You play the spider that kills their guy with a flyer, and they're like, oh, never going to kill you ever again.
Although, I thought that strategy would be really good, because like, in my head I was like, okay, well, aggressive format, like traditionally you just play like a big guy, a lot of big guys, just clog up the ground. I had a deck where I just could cast like Vastwood Gorger on like turn 3 or 4. I was like a Vastwood Gorger degenerate. I had like 3 in my deck, and I cast like 1 on turn 3, 4, and 5 in one game. It just didn't matter. I still lost.
You gotta send them in. Like you can't just sit back there with a 5/6. You just gotta send them in.
Yeah. No, I went like in one game. I went turn 4 Vastwood Gorger, turn 5 Living or the Angelic Destiny, the +4/+4 insane aura. Still just didn't win.
Everyone I've talked to about that strategy has always been like, yeah, I just like leave my guys on D because I can't really attack, and then I just
you gotta bash them.
You gotta bash. It's you gotta have all these tricks like Titanic Growth and just throw your guys at them. They make this block that's supposed to kill it. Just Titanic Growth turns into Plague Wind.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I think a lot of people misplay green. Like you have to value combat tricks highly.
Yeah.
And you really have to know like your removal spells are big creatures. You attack. Would you like to block? All right, you block. That's my removal spell.
Right.
The format's really interesting though. Bloodthirst is certainly an interesting dynamic to the format. So
yeah,
be interesting to see how it plays out, especially once it gets drafted more. I've been enjoying it so far. We'll see how it holds up as we draft it a lot over the next several months.
There definitely are a lot of events that will be featuring this. There's nationals. There's a pro tour.
It's Grand Prix.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, so tons of nationals. Of course, all the draft opens here, as well as, like you said, Pro Tour Philadelphia, just a couple of months.
Yeah.
And of course, in addition to the draft opens here, we also have the Legacy Open, which who knows what we're going to see out of that. Like, we can maybe predict the standard metagame a little bit, but for this event, for the Legacy Open, there's no way.
I could make a list of everything I thought would show up that day, and I would miss probably, half of the field.
Yeah. I was talking on Twitter with someone else the other day, and I made the claim that you could probably fill 3 top 8s with unique decks. Like I could probably,
unique decks that would reasonably make the top 8, for sure.
Reasonably make top 8, like 24 different decks.
You can make like an aggro top 8, a control top 8, and a combo top 8 easily. Just like I think this top 8's gonna have, Zoo and Affinity and green white, whatever it's called, Maverick or whatever it's called these days.
Hate bears.
Yeah, hate bears. Mono red burn, goblins. All the elves, all the beatdown elves. The beatdown elves versus combo elves. That distinction's had to been made before. It's a really wide open format. You can just look at the cards. Oh, this one's really good. I want to build this deck that does all these really cool things with this card. Well, your deck's probably good enough.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's doing really powerful things. Maybe you're one turn slower, one turn faster. Like you're more vulnerable to certain cards.
Right.
But, if you know how to play your deck well, I think that makes a big difference.
It definitely does, especially with cards like Brainstorm.
Yeah.
AJ Soccer just had a reasonably long video about everything you ever need to know about Brainstorm to start with. There's so much more beyond what he's talking about there too. Just the card has so many decisions.
I think one of the key takeaways from AJ's video and his article too, Pondering Brainstorm, that was really good, is just hold your brainstorms, don't cast them till you have to, till you know what you need. It reminds me a lot of Preordain, where a lot of players will just, gun their Preordain on turn 1 or 2. And it's like, oh, well, what do I do with these 2 cards? Well, I don't know what to do.
It's a bit different. Like, Preordain's you cast it when you think, oh, I need this thing or, this card. You cast it then. But with Brainstorm, it's like, well, I have bad cards in my hand and I have a way to get rid of them. So I'm going to cast it now to get rid of them. So it's the same concept, your hand's 7 good cards and one of them's a Brainstorm. You don't Brainstorm. There's no reason to.
Right.
You don't really get anywhere.
Yeah, you have so much value in your hand already,
Right.
You'll eventually find lands you can put back. You'll find spells that aren't good in the matchup you're in or something.
Right.
And just ship back. Yeah, so Brainstorm, very complicated card. Of course, all kinds of other intricate play in Legacy, including some of the combo decks. You've played Storm a lot yourself. That's a deck that a lot of people just can't even begin to fathom how to play properly.
The problem with Storm is you always think you know what you're doing, and then you have no idea what you're doing. You're always like, oh, this all works, and then you're like, wait. You look, you're like, well, I could have also done this, this, and this, and not lost to, Extirpate Ravenous Trap or 3 Dazes. Oh, wait, what was I thinking? And that's on top of all the cantrips. But, it's even, the other combo decks, Hive Mind, sometimes you just put Hive Mind into play and start passing turns back and forth, and no one actually knows what happens then. There's just a Hive Mind in play, and, your opponent might Life from the Loam to try and Ravens Crime you, and you're like, okay, I'll get back 3 lands, discard 1, and you discard 2 cards, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, that's not how that works.
No,
that can't be real. This is not a card.
Speaking of Hive Mind, that's a deck you've been talking a lot about lately. You think that deck is pretty good right now, right?
Yeah, it's really good, especially because Merfolk and Daze are really sort of sinking away from the tops of the metagame right now, because not only are the other control decks getting better against them due to Batterskull, but a lot of the decks that beat the control decks are really good against Merfolk because they're all relying on Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting how many different variations of combo decks there are in this format, and how they're all controlled by the other decks. No combo deck is rampant.
No, really not. It's just there's a lot of good generic answers to a lot of things. A lot of the combo decks don't really have this sort of resilience to mental misstep yet. They don't have this resilience to Wasteland at all usually. A lot of the combo decks just have problems sometimes they cantrip, get Wasteland, and they die. And that's one of the things that people don't really, look at a lot as much as they should. But it's you get rewarded for building a good combo deck for the event, and you get rewarded for showing up with the right hate for the event. Sometimes you want the Tormod scripts, sometimes you want the Pithy Needles, and sometimes you want the Leyline of Sanctities. Yeah,
exactly. There's so many different hate cards you can play, but you don't know what cards you need for any specific matchup, right?
It helps that there's just a lot of cards that are generically good against unfair decks, like Force of Will or Mental Misstep, Daze, Spell Pierce, out of Merfolk, Curse Catcher, things like that. A lot of the unfair decks in general just can't beat Gadok Tiger or Aethersworn Catanas.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting how those cards have all come together and what decks can use which cards, and also Mental Misstep I think is the big card right now. That card's really changed how the format is played.
It really has. It's made a lot of things Aether Vial before was so good because if you had it in your opening hand and you played it, the only on the draw your opponent could daze it, but if you're on the play, your opponent only had 1 course of action, and that was put themselves down a card by Force of Willing it.
2 for 1 yourself, right?
And now it's just as often as they had Force before, they'll just pitch a card and 1 for 1 trade. And then when you draw Aether Vial late in the game, it's just, well, I have an Aether Vial on my hand that's great. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, and I know I noticed this testing for the Grand Prix, and Patrick Sullivan mentioned this playing a Zoo deck at the Starseed Invitational, but the same thing happened to Step Links. Before it was just if you had a Step Links on one, and it was just really awkward for them because it hits them once, and all of a sudden almost dead. Like 4 damage is a lot from these Burn Zoo decks, and now it's just like you play Step Links on 1, it gets misstepped. You play Step Links on 4, and it's miserable.
Right. You have to play cards. I think if you're gonna play 1-drops, you have to be good at any point in the game. Almost.
Right. Again, Aether Vial is probably still good enough. You know, it's still, you know,
it's still Aether Vial.
Yeah, it's still Aether Vial, and it's still fine. You know, if you play Aether Vial on 2 or 3, it's probably still good enough to put in your deck, especially if it had like a heavy Wasteland hand. And a lot of these decks are really built to have their mana base work because of Aether Vial. So it's not as bad as like Step Links going late, but it definitely lost a lot of value as a strategy.
Yeah, totally. And the format's just really shifted with Mental Misstep. I mean, you know, it just changed.
One of the notable things was, you know, Goblins was deck, and it always beat up on these blue decks before, and then Mental Misstep happened, and all of a sudden they can't rely on their Aether Vials, they can't rely on their Goblin lackeys. And one of the things you've really noticed with that deck, all the lists I've seen, has started moving to War Instigators and just more ways that you didn't have before because you could not rely on hitting them with a lackey or an Aether Vial early enough for it to matter.
And of course, there's Jim Davis's infamous list from the Invitational with Mental Misstep in the main deck of his Goblins deck, which was pretty wild.
Sometimes you just gotta misstep their missteps, and that's all that matters.
I mean, if your opponent goes like turn 1 Mountain Goblin Lackey, you go misstep, they go misstep back, you know something fishy is brewing.
Fishy might not be the appropriate words for that try, but yeah.
Something goblin-y, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some mischief.
Yeah, something mischievous. Yeah,
something pretty mischievous.
Yeah.
It's brewing in the Warrens.
Yes.
So if you had to pick, say you're testing Legacy, and you're getting into Legacy, and you had to pick 3 decks, 1 aggro, 1 combo, and 1 control as your baseline decks to test against, what would you pick as the baseline decks to make sure you were good against?
To test against?
Yeah, it's like if you're starting the format, you want to like get a grasp of what's out there, which 3 decks are important that you know exist, and that you play test against, because you can't play test against everything. That's really hard.
Is this assuming that you're playing against people who have played those decks for a long time, or it's just like you and a friend are like, let's get into Legacy? You know, we're gonna build a gauntlet and we're gonna test these decks.
Yeah, you and a friend want to get into Legacy. Which decks?
Aggro, it's just Zoo. Like that's your default deck. It punishes. The most important part of Zoo is that Wild Nacatl punishes you for building these kind of mid-rangey do-nothing creature decks the most. Well, I was talking about possibly. I talked a while back about thinking that Wild Nacatl might be better off. Way before Misstep, might be better off banning Wild Nacatl because what it did was just you could not actually fight Wild Nacatl with any other creature deck. It was bigger than all your 1-drops, all your 2-drops pretty much, and then like your best exchange was Swords or Pathing It, maybe Lightning Bolt to get it best. But if you're playing Lightning Bolt, you may as well be playing your own Wild Nacatls. So like Zoo just really makes you think about what you're going to do to beat them. You can't just beat them by playing guys. You need some kind of trump if you're going to beat them in a fair way. Control, I'd probably look at just the Blue-White Stoneforge decks, probably the lists with Ancestral Visions. Again, that deck makes you think about, I have to do something proactive, and I have to think about how to play around all these counter spells. Though it might be better to also test, one of the things you kind of miss is that like Legacy really has the full 4. You have aggro, control, combo, and then you have like fish decks. Like very specifically, you probably want to test against probably some variety of Bant too, because Knight of the Reliquary, like those decks are Knight of the Reliquary decks really heavily, more so than Zoo. And Knight of the Reliquary is just, the more you think about it in Legacy, the more it's just like, well, all these control decks have all these counterspells. What they're losing to is that card. That card hits play, doesn't get misstepped, doesn't get spell snared, and if you untap with it, you're going to start wastelanding all their lands, getting man lands, doing actually whatever you want at that point. And every future Knight you play, because of the first one that resolved, is just going to instantly kill them in the moment.
Right. How about combo?
Probably Hive Mind. If you're just getting started into the format, Hive Mind's a combo deck you probably want to pick up. Because outside of the situations where you have a Hive Mind in play and pass the turn and no one knows, it's like, well, I'm going to play, does this work? I'm going to play my spell and then I packed it. And I have a second Hive Mind in play. Do you have to pay twice or do you counter, like what actually happens with the stag? It's reasonably easy to play for a combo deck. And it doesn't, unlike other combo decks, it doesn't interact on the board, so you can't get this false sense of security from saying, oh, I've got all these like Pithing Needles or Disenchants or whatever's going on. This is how I'm going to win. Like you have to interact off of the stack with that deck most of the time. And the other important part is that it's actually a real clock and it actually has disruption. Like it has its own force, wills, or thought seeds or whatever you want on the deck. I've seen lists with both. So, you have to be able to beat, beating a Belcher deck's completely different from beating all the other combo decks. And you don't want it, you don't want like something like Reanimator where like, oh, I have Caracas, everything works out fine.
Right.
So.
Or how do you feel about Storm? It's not good for beginners, or?
I'm at the point in this format where I don't feel that it's probably better for people in general, just if you're going to pick up a combo deck and play at an event, if you have not played Storm significantly, you're probably better off investing time into Reanimator or Hivemind or some other combo deck, because for the first like 90% of proficiency with the decks, you're going to do better with those. And then like once you start getting like really good with Storm, you're going to put up better results, but I mean, by that point you've already invested way too much time.
Sure. So I think that's an interesting question. So out there, curious, let us know what you think the 3 next test against are in Legacy. In the meantime, we got the finals of the Standard Open.
We have Callblade on the right, played by Pskowski, versus Red Black Vampires on the left, played by Matthew Farney.
Yeah, and this is the finals of the Star City Games Standard Open here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm Gavin Verhey, joined by Ari Lax, and this is going to be an exciting matchup. We did not go into this tournament expecting to see a Callblade versus Vampires finals, and yet here we are.
Yeah, I was expecting like Valakut versus Tempered Seal or something, but this is definitely a feasible, or definitely something that could have happened based on what has happened. Callblade actually put up pretty good results at this event. It put 2 players in top 8, put 2 more players into top 16, and that's after all the bannings. No Jace, no Stoneforge. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, 4 Callblade in the top 16 is just insane. It reminds me, it's just absurd how resilient the deck is. I mean, obviously it's a slightly different deck now, but still have Squadron Hawks, which was a major backbone of the deck.
Right.
Still have all the equipment, you have Planeswalkers, Gideon. Not Jace, obviously, not the Mind Sculptor.
But you get to basically turn him into Hero Blade Holder, Maria Angel as your game-winning 4-drop.
Right. So you still have a strong 4-drop suite. It's really what Callblade should have been all along. It's much more fair, much more reasonable.
Yeah, you actually have to interact with your opponent. You have to play spells on your turn instead of Stoneforge, and I'm never gonna have to do anything on my turn ever again except for pay 2 to equip Sword of Peace and Famine, then untap the 2 lands.
Right, exactly. So who do you think has the edge here? You still think Vampires has the edge?
I think Vampires has the edge a little bit. At least game 1. Game 2, I'm not really sure exactly where it goes because this Callblade deck has so many sideboard options, but it could definitely shift after sideboarding.
Yeah, after sideboarding, things could shift a little bit too. Also, it just really depends on the draws the players get.
Right. If Vampires comes out of the gates pretty fast game 1, I don't really think that Callblade has a good way to stabilize, especially if they have the Hex Mage for that Gideon.
Yeah, the 4 Hex Mages in Matthew Farney's deck, not something we've seen in a lot of Vampires decks. In fact, Matthew Landstrom, another Vampires advocate, has done very well with it, has not used Hex Mage in any of the events, or at least in any of his main decks that I'm aware of. So we have a slight shift in the guard here as a different Matthew has taken up the Vampires archetype and chosen to go a little different direction. Done really well with it, though.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, Landstrom is in attendance here. Kind of curious what he thinks of Matthew Farney's list. Be cool to get his take on that. I'll see if I can talk to him if I go up walking around later. In the meantime, looks like players are
shuffling each other's decks,
rolling some dice to decide who's going to go first. Matt won the roll, so Vampire is going to be on the play, and that's pretty big in this matchup.
It really is, especially going into a Game 3 scenario against these Day of Judgments. When you are on the play with Vampires, you can legitimately put them into burn range by turn 4 just by attacking, or just even land a Highborn and just untap with it. If you have your mana up with a Highborn in play, Day of Judgment just doesn't look as scary as it used to.
No, not at all. Day of Judgment, all right, take 8, take 6, I'll gain 6 or 8 life, and then you still have whatever's in your hand to replenish it. You can play a land and bring back a Bloodghast that is haste.
So Matthew looks at his opening hand.
And it looks like a keep.
Yep.
All right, so Vampires is keeping. Is Callblade?
Also keeping.
All right, here we go. Let's see what we have. First play of the finals here. Marsh Flats into Lacerator.
The start the Vampires player is probably looking for in this matchup. 2/2 body, doesn't die to a Squadron Hawk block, gets in the damage, probably before Tim can really start doing anything to the board.
Used to be you had to work so hard for your 2-pack creatures for 1 mana. Now, just get them for like 1 mana all the time. Common last
I mean, we had that guy all the way back in Exodus, so that doesn't really count.
He's a little better now. You don't always take the damage.
Don't always, but, you know, it's close enough. You didn't always have to take the damage if you didn't want to with Carnophage either.
It's true. It's true. Just tap him. All right. And Matt serves in for 2 with his last trader, but there's a Dismember from Tim taking that out. And some people might be like, oh, man, he had to, you know, take 4 damage for that. But he just basically did a lot more because that last trader was going to deal at least 4 damage, if not more than that in the first place.
The 2 damage that he was going to take on that attack is already basically discount off that. It's like, you know, that Dismember almost costs 1 less to play there.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like a Squadron Hawk's coming down.
All right, hawking him up. Could go find some more.
Bloodghast for Matthew.
Now, Hawk obviously against Bloodghast is not the most profitable trade.
No.
So I don't think we'll see the Squadron Hawk block, unless maybe Tim has got a plan that involves that. But I think we'll probably see Tim take the next hit off that Bloodghast, and then maybe assemble an army against whatever else Matthew is planning in the wings.
Yeah.
Looking over Matthew's hand, I see he has a Sun Titan at the front, I believe.
He has a good play in this game. I think Sun Titan's one of the ways that he has to really close the game out. I mean, at the least, it trades very profitably with even a go for the throat like Matthew has in his hand.
Right.
You get back Blade Splicer or Squadron Hawk or just anything else and really just sort of establish a board state, take control of the game, even if it dies.
And if Matthew's banking on Dismember, that's not going to work out so well for him. Because 6/6, a little bigger than that 5/5.
Yeah, that interaction is going to be one that's going to be very important in the next year.
Yeah, in standard format, Dismember versus Titans. Titans win.
I mean, obviously, Titans are just the best creatures, but, you know, they're going to get a lot better. Matthew has 2 Lacerators and a Lava Claw reaches there, so Tim's pretty far behind on board right now.
Yeah, those guys are going to do some attacking. Let's see, so
he's got a Blade Splicer, though.
Okay, that'll help slow down the assault. The 3/3, even if without First Strike, will be able to block those Lacerators pretty profitably. Tim is sitting at only 14 life.
I mean, even if the 3/3 dies to something, though it can't die to the go for the throat in Matt's hand, the 2 guys can just double block down one of those Lacerators as well. Matthew takes 2 damage, going down to 16 from those Lacerators too, which makes, you know, if this attack doesn't turn out the best and Tim untaps with some guys on board, these Squadron Hawks might just legitimately start taking him down.
So Matt hardcast Dismember, killing off that Golem token, and then Tim double blocks one of the Lacerators, trading off the Blade Splicer and the Squadron Hawk.
Going to 10 life, turning off the Lacerators.
And now Bloodthirst is online, or not Bloodthirst, Bloodied is online. So that means Tim is at 10 or less life, and Bloodghast will have haste if it comes back. Tim drops 2 Squadron Hawks, finding the 4th Squadron Hawk.
Yeah, it looks like his endgame here is to Sun Titan back that Blade Splicer, which should, at the very least, put him pretty stabilized to anything other than a burn spell.
Yeah, Sun Titan is going to be really strong here. The only question is, can Tim stabilize to that point? I mean, if Matthew has maybe a high board, I think it's going to get a little tricky.
Yeah, even just a Gatekeeper.
Or an Arc Trail here. There's the Arc Trail. That's rough. In for 4, Tim down to 6 life.
If he has a Gideon, he's still fine. And by 5, I mean very, very far ahead. So
as long as Matthew doesn't have the Hex Mage for it.
Yeah.
I think, is that Viserys here? Yep, that's Viserys here.
And his last card in hand's a go for the throat, so.
Yep. Does Tim have the Gideon? Or the Elspeth?
Elspeth would be awesome here.
Would be great.
Elspeth would just end it. Does not look like it.
Nope. See tap 2 for Squadron Hawk, most likely. Yeah, there's the Hawk.
And,
does he have another play?
Maybe he's debating on it. No, does not have another play.
All right, no more play. So Tim is going to be able to drop a Sun Titan next turn. The question is it going to matter?
Matthew's missed a lot of lands too, which is kind of relevant. This Bloodghast might not necessarily be in play next turn off this block.
Right, of course. He's all the more likely to draw lands since there's more left in his deck now. He hasn't been playing any or drawing any. Right. Or in Tim's mind, maybe he's just been holding a land.
Yeah, he has the Lava Claw reaches. I don't really see why he'd hold a land to when he can animate that and get some damage.
It's true.
Tim falls to 3 life.
And
right in the burn range.
And that Bloodghast has haste too if
It doesn't
Matt
fact.
draws a land for it. So there's 6 for Sun Titan.
But we know he has to go for the throat for that, so it might not be enough if Matthew draws a land.
All right, so Matt surveys the board, taps 2, go for the throats down. That's Sun
Yeah.
Titan.
An untapped land is lethal here.
Let's see what Matt draws. Matt's thinking about the last card in his hand. He's thinking if he wants to scry with Viserys here.
That doesn't seem correct, especially because any untapped land just activates Lava Claw Reaches, gets back Bloodghast, and serves with the team, and it's exactly lethal on the board.
Yeah, you don't want to sacrifice anything here.
No.
I mean, I understand it's tempting, but I think if you just win if you draw an untapped land, your odds are so good. I would just take those odds.
I agree.
Oh, does he have a 1? Oh, Dismember.
Dismember. Oh. That was a lot easier. Now any land is lethal. Or that.
Or Gatekeeper Malik here, and that's 3 damage.
And looks like we're going to be off to game 2.
All right. Vampires very quickly takes the first game. Tim needed a Gideon or Elspeth there, really, to lock things up.
Yeah, instead of just the Squadron Hawks.
He did not find one. Matthew drew pretty much the right sequence of cards there at the end.
Just a bunch of creatures and an Archero.
Yeah. Man. Well, all right, so here's the deal. So we're heading into game 2 of the finals. We're about to make a pretty big giveaway. We're going to give away a badge to Gen Con. So for everyone out there watching, this is how this is going to work. We're going to ask a question. Tweet the answer to that question with the hashtag SCG Premium. We'll pick one person who answers this question correctly. They'll win a badge to Gen Con. I think it's about $75 value. It's going to be great this year. Magic Nationals is there. All kinds of side events. You can try and grind into Nationals. Of course, board games, card games, brand new games that aren't even out on the market yet. Gen Con is an amazing time. It's something you are going to want to win. And if you win this badge, I would consider going to Gen Con if you aren't already.
It's really fun. I mean, on top of, Nationals, there's going to be Vintage Champs, Legacy Champs. Both those events are always amazing. Just watching Vintage Champs is awesome. Everyone shows up with all their power and all these awesome decks that, with every card you can play. All these cards that you're like, oh, I forget that exists, like Mind's Desire.
Huh. Sure. Yeah, I mean, last year at Vintage Champs, we saw Bob Maher play, right?
Yeah, he did. He got second.
He got second, losing to, of course, his own Dark Confidant flip in the finals.
Very appropriate.
Very classic, very classic. Only way he lost is to himself, as it goes. All right, tell me the question, Ari, for the finals.
Okay, I don't know. You got one? You had one earlier.
So, sorry, yeah, I do have one. So the question for the finals: where is Gen Con held? Answer the question, and if you answer the question correctly,
with the hashtag
SCG Premium, one person will win the Gen Con badge.
Yes, and that will be a fun time.
It's be a coup for all you guys out there. This is quite a high value, and if you don't win this one, do not fret. We will give away another one in the Legacy Finals later today.
Yep.
So the question once again, where is Gen Con held? In what city is Gen Con held? Let us know. You could win a free Gen Con badge. It's going to be exciting. In the meantime, we are here in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the finals of Standard. I see players building their Legacy decks all around us. Immediately following this, Legacy will be starting. First draft open of the day has already begun. Those guys have drafted their decks and are working on trying to figure out what kind of M12 masterpiece they're going to build.
It'd be real interesting to see the matches of that being played out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if we'll get any draft open matches on camera, but there'll definitely be some form of coverage on the site. So check that out. Be at least the winners' pictures.
Yeah.
And the deck list probably too. So it'll be cool to see what decks do well.
Yep. So looking at sideboarding here, what do you think the Vampires player brings in?
Vampires player, I think we're going to see go for the throat, probably. Mm-hmm. How good do you think Mimic Vat is here?
I think it's probably really good here. I think if a Blade Splicer just gets on it, it's going to be pretty important. And the other thing is he saw Sun Titan game 1. Like, that's got to be something he's taking into consideration. I know he knows he only has one, but people tend to react to these kind of things, and it's probably a good thing here that you get to imprint anything you want onto that Mimic Vat. Hero Blade hold on Mimic Vat's probably just completely devastating.
Yeah, I mean, and of course you always put one of your own vampires on it, right?
Sure.
So then you just have a guy every
Keep
turn.
a Hex Mage to kill any Gideons that show up. You know, keep a Highborn just to do everything Highborn already does. Not a Gatekeeper though. Does not work how you want it to. Those just the 2/2s.
Two for two, not so exciting. And I don't think you want Soren's Thirst.
No, you don't want Rage Bomb, Swords. I don't think you want Shatter. There's only 2 swords in the deck, unless you want to shatter like a Blade Splicer token or an Achemoth Nexus. But I don't really think that's where it's at.
Maybe you could bring in 1 Shatter.
Yeah, I'd just rather have, all the cards in the main deck are so much more versatile that I'd rather just have those.
I agree with you in the most
I don't
part
think
there.
you want Surgical Extraction either.
No, I mean, I think a lot of players would be greedy and try and go Extraction on Squadron Hawks, but I just don't like it.
I think you want the 3 singletons, the Go for the Throat, the Mimic Vat, and the Tectonic Edge, because Tectonic Edge is going to be great because he needs to get to 5 mana to really cast the game-winning cards. And Mimic Vat, we've already discussed, is great, just recurring threats. All of his guys all the Cobblade creatures are great on Mimic Vat, except for Squadron Hawk. And then Go for the Throat, just more ways to kill a hero, more ways to kill a Sun Titan. And I think we might see the Viscera Seers come out. Just 1/1s in the world of Squadron Hawks aren't really where you want to be.
Yeah, the Seer's not that exciting. I mean, yeah, you can theoretically fireball them out with Colossus Highborn, but other than that, I don't think the Seer's doing a lot.
You're probably better off trying to fireball them out by just attacking them and making them block, or their only removal's Day of Judgment, or they're like just Celestial Purge or Highborn anyways. It just, the fireballing people thing doesn't really seem like it's where you want to be here.
Yeah, I like that swap right there.
Now on the Callblade side, let's see. I think that Spell Pierce is coming out.
Yeah, I don't think Spell Pierce. I mean, you could hit a removal spell with it, but I don't know if you're going to be able to play that around that often.
No, I don't think you really will going in the early game at least. And the guys you're getting removed early game just aren't really important. The guys you want to save are things that cost a lot of mana that you don't really have the ability to just throw a Spell Pierce out after casting. On the other hand, I think you want Stave Off. Probably, you might untap with something and stave off and make some combats awkward. At the very least, kill a Hex Mage with the Squadron Hawk would be pretty nice.
Certainly an interesting card.
I think you want Mental Misstep. I think you need it to keep down Lacerator, counters Lightning Bolt as well. Though I guess this list doesn't necessarily have the same, density of 1-drops that most Vampires lists have with Inquisition.
Discard.
So it might not be quite as good as it usually is. Maybe only 1 or 2. Day of Judgment for sure, Celestial Purge for sure, those are obvious. And I might consider Core Firewalker just as more bodies at trade.
I can see Firewalker coming in. The question to me is, what is he going to cut? Spell Pierce, I don't think is in. I think Mana Leak will probably come out.
I think Mana Leak's probably reasonable on the play.
Sure, yeah, I can see Mana Leak.
I think going to game 3, you might want Core Firewalker over Mana Leak.
So if you cut the 3 Spell Pierces,
you get 2 Day. You need to add probably about. There isn't really that much to cut here.
Yeah, I think Mana Leak and Spell Pierce are the only reasonable cuts. You want all your Planeswalkers. I mean, you could cut Sword of Feast and Famine.
No, it's an easy way to win the game. I think.
It is, but it's also a Tempo Black Hole. Like if they're going to overload on removal spells, which they are, they have a ton of removal, and you start equipping it, you're just going to pay 1 or 2 mana and time walk you.
Yeah, but you can just sort of cast it for 3, and then I guess you don't really have time sometimes. But with Day of Judgment, you can start post-day playing Squadron Hawks and then playing it for 3, and then on subsequent turns just paying 2 and forcing the removal, or putting a hero out of dismembered range or whatever you want to do with it. So I don't know if I'd necessarily cut it. I also think it's going to be important because of Blade Splicer makes that card important in this matchup because they're going to waste a lot of mana, a lot of time killing the 3/3, but that 1/1's just going to sit there, and if you hit them with the sword afterwards, you have this 3/3 pro black that the next turn, you get to play your turn when you hit them normally, and then the next turn you just have this 3/3 to block with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a card you could consider taking out. Probably not. I'll probably keep it in. I mean, I think the only cards you can really shave then are probably Mana Leak and Spell Pierce. Even though hero is likely to die, it's just if they don't kill it, you win.
Yeah. And even just as a body to block with, they have to figure out a lot of things in combat to deal with it. It doesn't get Lightning Bolted. It doesn't get Arc Trailed at all. Just at least not without trading for something else or blocking a Hex Mage.
Right. So we'll see how they sideboard it here. Looks like the game is about to begin. We're going to head back and see these players face off. Players looking over their opening hands. Tim on the play this game. He's the Cobblade player. Lost his first game to Matthew Farney's Vampires. Played Sun Titan, just wasn't good enough.
Leads on a Celestial Colonnade and passes the turn. Matthew has no 1-drop, and Tim has in return a Core Firewalker.
Bloodghast on turn 2. So Tim did bring in the Firewalkers. I wonder if he ended up cutting those leaks or not. Brought on at least one Firewalker anyway.
Yeah.
Paid 3.
Oblivion rings the Bloodghast, I'm assuming?
That's a good way to get that Bloodghast out of there.
Cracks in for 2 with the Firewalker. Matthew tapping a black mana, 2 more, Gatekeeper, Lacerator. Or Bloodghast Lacerator. I was assuming Gatekeeper at first.
Huh.
That's the one that costs 3 to begin with, usually. Tim considering his options here. Looks like he's going to lead on a Preordain.
Yep, Preordain.
Consider some more options.
All the options. All right, ships them both to the bottom. Picks up a new card off the top. So now Tim has a pretty full grip, but what answers does he have? Does he have Purge?
He has a Sword of Feast and Famine to go on that Firewalker,
there's Feast and
which is
Famine.
going to get out of hand pretty fast if it gets set up. Protection from his whole deck. We saw Caleb do this and lose, but I think it's a little bit harder when you're casting, these giant spells out the Feast and Famine too.
Yeah, I mean, Feast and Famine is super powerful, and especially if you equip it to core Firewalker, then it's really hard for the vampires to deal with outside of Gatekeeper Malakir. Interesting to note, so Jarvis Wu, who worked with Matthew Farney on his deck, this is how he thinks that, worked with Timothy on his deck, feels like this is how Timothy should have boarded. Board out the Leaks and Pierces for Day of Judgment, 2 Purge, and 3 Misstep. He couldn't, and he didn't know how to board for core Firewalker. Now, we saw Tim bring in the core Firewalkers, so it sounds like he deviated from what Jarvis recommended.
I think that might be better against a typical list with Inquisition, but not so much against this list.
All right, so Matt has a Dismember to take care of that Firewalker, and it looks like he's going to serve in for 4 here.
Yeah. That Nexus can still connect with the Feast and Famine, though, so that's a pretty important interaction.
Yep, 3 poison, and it'll make Matthew discard a card.
Yep. For 0 mana, nonetheless, basically.
Yeah.
Possibly even plus a mana if you come to play Tapland or Preordain.
Yeah, the Inkmoth Nexus Sword of Feast and Famine interaction is incredible. I remember when that showed up first at Grand Prix Dallas earlier this year.
Yeah.
And
I definitely did not have that in my deck and should have.
And it attacks for 3 with Nexus, untaps it. Yeah, I added them in at the last minute because I saw them running around, and they were excellent for me in that tournament.
Yeah, that was I remember, I think it was like Luis wrote an article about that, and everyone on the team was like, "Oh, this didn't realize it was so good." Wrote about it, and then everyone was like, "Oh man, that really sucks. You just wrote about the best thing to do in the mirror."
So let's see. Down comes Blade Splicer for Tim.
Oh wow.
Plus a Squadron Hawk. Wow.
I'm surprised he didn't just suit up one of those with the sword.
Well, decided not to. Instead, drops that Hawk. I guess just wanted to be able to unload it Hawk's next turn.
Yeah, I think that suiting up the Golem with the sword might be better, though, because there's no real way for him to kill the Golem then. Unless he boards in Shatter, but I don't really see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, he could board in Shatter, but even that, it only could board more than like 1 Shatter.
Yeah, you have the Blade Splicer to protect from Gatekeeper, and it's out of, can't be Dismembered, can't be Go for the Throated, out of Lightning Bolt range, out of Arc Trail range. You can have Lightning Bolt plus Arc Trail, but that's still a lot to really ask for. Especially when facing down this Poison clock that's faster than yours.
Yeah, the Poison certainly adds an interesting dynamic. That Inkmoth Nexus is just a couple hits away, and do you really want to spend any removal on it? Do you have removal you can spend on it? Matthew drops down Colossus Highborn this turn. And Matt, considering his attacks here, his opponent does have that Golem. 3/3 does stop the 2/2s.
Yep. First Strike also not relevant in this matchup, but brick walls a lot of people a lot of the time.
Yeah, sure. All right, if you're attacking with your Golem token, it could also make a big difference too.
Yeah.
All right, so Tim drops the Golem in front of the Vampire Lacerator, and Matthew's probably just going to drain with that Colossus Highborn, throwing away his Lacerator.
Well, not necessarily throwing away, he doesn't really want to take the damage from it every turn.
True. early in the game to be be losing a creature, especially when your opponent is quickly mounting more board presence. So Timothy takes 2 from the Bloodghast, and did he choose the not drain there?
Let's see.
All right.
He did, in fact. Okay, so Golem gets equipped with this sword here.
And that can serve in for 5.
Untapping the Seachrome Coast, too.
Untapping the tap Seachrome Coast. Very nice. And Tim drops another Squadron Hawk. Serves in for 6. That'll chop Matthew down to 12 life. So it looks like he did drain last turn.
Yeah.
So chops Matt down to 12 life. And
3
Tim,
poison.
3 poison. And Tim will be able to untap all of his lands and probably deploy any remaining Squadron Hawks that he has.
Possibly anything else like a Gideon, too.
Yeah. Oh, he just immediately taps it?
No, I think they were just confirming that the Golem actually did get through.
Okay. I was going to say that looked like Gideon.
Yeah, making sure the discard resolves, too.
Yeah. Very important you do them both. Don't want to remember about the discard on your opponent's turn. That can be a nightmare.
Yeah. The old, the Conrad Kolos incident. Or was it Conrad or was it someone else? Was it just... They were watching a match and someone forgot and they brought it up to the judges and they're like, oh, we resolved the trigger now, and the guy's like, but it's my draw step.
Yeah, that was really awkward.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly who it happened to, but that did happen at the Grand Prix.
The story was told to me by Conrad, but
yeah. Player had to discard a card that wasn't in their hands when the
Matthew discards a Go for the Throat.
Alright, so he discards Go for the Throat, and now Tim has to decide what he's casting. Alright, chooses to re-equip the sword. Looks like he's putting it on Squadron Hawk.
Yeah.
Creates a nice little blocker there. And then taps for 2 more Hawks. So Tim is doing exactly what his deck wants to do here, which is clog the board. You're not susceptible to a Gatekeeper. You have a sword active.
Yeah. Clog the board, have a clog.
Yeah, definitely. You are in a good position when you can have that many creatures in play against vampires. Matthew serves again with Bloodghast and Highborn, or serves this time with Bloodghast and Highborn. And Tim is just going to do some light blocking here, I imagine, cripple Matthew's army. How do you think you block in this situation? You're really far ahead, you just want to make sure you don't accidentally lose.
I think you just throw the Squadron Hawk on the Highborn and take the Bloodghast. Taking the Bloodghast, blocking Bloodghast, 2 damage regardless, but he does in fact have the Shatter.
So the Shatter gets rid of that equipment. That changes things a little bit. Tim is still in a pretty commanding position.
Yeah, still has 7 power of attackers and the Nexus. And let's see, is that does he have another mana land down there? He does, in fact.
Yeah, so you can activate that Celestial Colonnade and get in.
Is that Squadron Hawk? Yeah, okay, one of them died in combat. There we go.
Yeah. Alright, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 damage in the air. Maybe he leaves back a couple blockers. Just in case.
Yeah, probably going to leave the ground force back.
Let's see.
Maybe not.
Maybe he just wants to serve.
Yeah.
Counting up his damage, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It's only 11.
It's only 11 damage, and I think you want to be able to block so you don't accidentally lose to whatever Matt has. You don't want to lose to, say, double burn spell or something.
Yeah, something random and silly.
I guess not even double burn spell would do it, but...
or
no, wait, if he had bolt, yeah.
He does have the Lava Claw reaches, too.
Yeah. Leave back the Golem. Alright, there we go. Serve with Colonnade and 4 other guys.
Leaves back... Is that the... Yep, Blaze Placer's getting in there, too.
Yep, so just leaves back the Golem token.
Going down to 4 life on that, probably.
Matthew thinking, make sure he doesn't want to spend any resources on this. Alright. Matthew takes it all. And then Tim is just going to pass back. It seems to be a slight life total dispute. Okay, there we go. So It's all fixed up. Tim plays a preordain, looks at his top 2 cards, ships both of them.
At this point, there really isn't too much that matters, so it's pretty easy to expect that he doesn't want, generic 2 cards.
Yeah.
Oh, look, don't really need anything other than ways to kill you. Like a Dismember would just be awful right here. A bunch of lands.
I think the cards you want to see are Gideon and Elspeth. Those are the 2 cards.
Elspeth, Gideon, Oblivion Ring, another Feast and Famine, Celestial Purge. Just, you want cards that are going to affect the board on your next turn.
So Matthew serves with Bloodghast, and Tim's just going to take it, drop it to 8. Question is, what's in Matt's hand?
Tim should have this one locked up, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Matt can maybe do something tricky. If Tim messes up, he could kill his own guy and drain with Eyeborn or something.
The Golem does have first strike, so he can get the life before damage there. So that has to be considered.
That certainly is relevant. That's true. Yeah, first strike actually is a slight downside in this instance.
Yeah.
Because you can drain them with the Highborn before normal damage happens.
And if he doesn't attack with the ground guys, he doesn't have lethal in the air through a removal spell.
Right.
So it could get interesting.
Let's see what happens.
Timothy does have a Tectonic Edge for that man land. It's 2 Highborns now.
I mean, he does have that Colonnade, but if Matthew's holding a Dismember, I guess that Dismember wouldn't work. Go for the throat.
Does he have a land?
All right.
If he had a land, I think his only line is just animate it and attack with, I don't know, with maybe a Hawk or 2.
Let's see. Well, if he has, so I think you have to assume if the Colonnade connects, Matthew's dead.
Yeah.
So you have to assume that he has to go for the throat and figure out what your best
attack is. Yeah.
Attack is. You also have to consider the fact he could have Dismember. So I think you have to attack with at least 2 Hawks. So you'd have to pay 2 life for Dismember.
Yeah, I don't know about attacking with a 3rd Hawk though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like the 3rd Hawk either. I don't know if the 3rd Hawk is relevant.
They're
all right.
Oh, just dead.
And he doesn't have to go for the throat, so that's game.
Yeah.
That was a gatekeeper in Matthew's hand.
I think you wanted to leave back the 2nd Hawk so you can just put 1/1s in front of the Highborns on the attack and not take the damage from them.
I mean, I think you have to serve with 2 Hawks.
Yeah, but the 3rd for sure stays on.
Oh, yeah. The 3rd I don't think is necessary.
Right.
So here we are heading into Game 3. This is it. The last game. The winner of this will win the Star City Games Cincinnati Standard Open.
Yeah, it's been a long way here. We've seen a lot of decks through the Swiss. We featured Kuldotha Red. Let's see what else. Valakut, Splinter Twin. Sometimes with Pyromancer's Ascension too. We featured actual Pyromancer's Ascension.
Yeah.
Tempered Steel, Pure Steel Paladin, Mono Black Vampires, Red Black Vampires, Green White Black Junk.
Yeah, I remember that deck.
Callblade, Venser Control. It's a wide open format right now.
Yeah, I mean, we do have this strange finals of Cobblade against Vampires, but really I think that's just an anomaly. Cobblade is a deck, but it's not like the deck anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like necessarily an anomaly. They're both very good decks. It's just they're, instead of being the deck and the deck that sometimes gets to the finals, it's one of the decks, one of the other decks, and there's like 5 or 6 more decks that you can just reasonably play.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's totally reasonable finals. It's funny this is how it shook out, but the format is certainly wide open. I mean, walking around, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, we've seen Birthing Pod decks out on the tables. We've seen...
I heard a story about Drew Levin dying to Throwing Bird Beatdown yesterday, actually, out of a Grand Architect deck.
Yeah, I've seen Grand Architect running around. You can play a lot of different things right now. I think players are really excited about the innovation.
There's a lot of cards in Scars of Mirrodin and like Rise of the Eldrazi especially that are just these really weird, powerful effects that, you just build a deck and they're good at it.
Yeah, like Gravitational Shift, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Just play some Hawks, play some Myriad Angels, flip them over. It's crazy.
Sounds like the player meeting for Legacy is about to start soon.
So the players in the finals, I'm sure the head judges will work something out with them. Maybe they'll be getting a bye or something like that.
This game probably is not going to take that long.
Yeah, maybe they'll just start their match a little late.
Yeah, time extension.
Different options. I mean, they'll have to fill out a deck list. But
yeah, they'll certainly be able to run it,
Yeah. So we want to make sure everyone can play in all the tournaments.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looks like a pretty healthy crowd for the Legacy here today.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the final count is.
Yeah, definitely. And Also, what kind of decks? I know for the Legacy Challenge yesterday, there was a really big turnout.
Yeah, I know Chris Anderson did really well with elves in that. I was walking by the dealer's booth. Some cards that were sold out were like Echoing Truth, so that probably means that there's a fair amount of combo just floating around, people looking for that card. Narcomoeba was sold out, but we had this discussion about how, every time all the Dredge Hate cards sell out, all the Dredge cards sell out, and then no one plays either.
Yeah, it's weird. All the Dredge cards are always sold out, but it never seems like Dredge is that popular. So.
Let's see. I'm trying to think what else was sold out over there. Interestingly enough, a lot of there was some elf card I don't remember that was sold out, but that may just be EDH casual, so who knows.
Yeah, I mean, elves is always really interesting. I've talked to Chris Anderson a lot about his elves deck. He's been playing that deck nonstop.
He's been working on it a long time.
And he can play it really well. He's making a lot of tweaks, and I've seen him play standard elves, legacy elves. He's been playing overextended elves in my tournaments. We've been working on the deck list. And there's just all kinds of cool things you can do in that deck. And he knows how to play it really well.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how he does. Drew Levin slid us a card. He's playing his Legacy deck today, Blood Moon.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
It's a good card. I've only played it out of the sideboard of Ancient Tomb style combo decks, but in those, there's just some times where you play it and your opponent looks at their deck and they're like, well, I don't actually have a basic to play my spells with anymore.
Yeah, it's I wonder what kind of direction he's taking with that. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with Blood Moon in this format.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the Dragon Stompy decks, but that just seems up Drew Levin's
Yeah,
alley.
he's probably on some kind of blue-white-red Stoneforge Mystic deck.
Red Mystic.
I remember Colosso Fuentes and Nate Pease, and I cannot remember who else at the Grand Prix were playing some kind of blue-white-red and Stoneforge Mystic Batter Skull, Grim Lavamancer, and then it had Magus of the Moon, was what it was.
Wow. Magus
so,
of the Moon.
Maybe he's playing Enlightened Tutor Sport instead of Magus, or maybe he just wants something that doesn't die to Dismember. But
maybe he's just playing the blue-white like Stoneforge deck with the Blood Moon.
Yeah, I mean, those decks were splashing Volcanic Island for Red Blast, so...
Certainly some cool options there.
Yeah,
I don't know. Legacy is wide open, all kinds of stuff you can do, and even with like Mental Misstep around, going back to Chris Anderson's elves deck, he's like, you know what? I can only play with 4 missteps, and I have a lot of 1-drops.
Yeah,
so
and you could also just attack them and just not really care. He has this Mirror Entity in his list that's just ready to kill people.
Mirror Entity, Natural Order for Progenitus. But in the meantime, before we get to Legacy, we have one more game to play here in the Standard Open. This is it. The last game of the Standard Open. Winner of this takes the whole thing. It's either going to be Cobblade in the hands of Timothy or Vampires in the hand of Matthew. Oh, dear. Crazy. Should be an interesting match to see how it plays out in the third game. We've seen 2 very different games so far. In one game, Timothy was on the play, managed to clog the board early with some Blade Splicers and Squadron Hawks. Matthew was kind of in it, but I mean, Timothy ran away with it pretty fast. In the first game, Matthew just, had all the right cards.
3 Lacerators, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Just ran out a bunch of creatures, and Timothy never really recovered.
Now, we definitely felt like Matthew had the advantage talking about this before the matchup, but maybe not. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to see how good Blade Splicer is here, because it's just huge that it's a 3/3.
Yeah.
It looks like Matt's mulling to 6.
Yep, down to 6 cards.
He doesn't look too happy with his 6 right now.
Uh-oh. Mulliganing in the finals of a big tournament, in the game 3. Not where you want to be. All right, looks like he's keeping a 6, although he looks pretty reluctant about it.
Land go. Looks like Timothy plays a Celestial Colonnade off the top and passes the turn.
Yep, Colonnade down.
The obvious off the top. Looks like Matthew has a Gatekeeper in hand to follow up his Bloodghast on turn 2, depending on what Timothy plays.
And there's Squadron Hawk. That's all 3 games? Or he had it in the first game too, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Although Timothy didn't play it on turn 2 in the second game, though. He had it later on. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure.
He had Firewalker on 2.
He had Firewalker on 2.
Bloodghast gets in there, presumably just for 2. Don't really want to trade off creatures that early.
Yeah, and blocking Bloodghast on turn 2 doesn't seem very profitable when they just play a land and comes back. See if Matthew has anything to follow up that Bloodghast. And he doesn't.
No land, nothing.
Good morning, Magic players. May I have your attention, please? Good
So
morning.
he serves in for 1 with
On
the
behalf
Squadron
of
Hawk.
SCGCin.com, let me say I'd like to welcome you to the SCGCin
And probably going to play another hawk here, unless he's got a blade splicer.
Yeah, blade splicer would be pretty much a game ender at this point.
There's
Just
another
hawk. Getting another hawk.
Yeah. So he's going to have the full hawk quadfecta here.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. Man. Matthew's hand, he was not happy about a 6, and doesn't seem to be working out very well for him.
Does not.
Let's see. And
Looks like a preordain.
seems likely. Yep, preordains. You could potentially. I think there's a bunch of gatekeepers in Matthew's hand. Is that what he's holding on to?
Possibly, but.
Become Jace the Coke Spongers. So please avoid that as much as possible.
And the drink spill punt of the day just struck.
Smartphones and access to Twitter.
Matthew drew a land, but it's going to come into play tapped. Arc trails down the Squadron Hawks.
Alright. Well, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Maybe Matthew's just choked on removal. There's land number 3.
Looks like he's got another red spell in hand, so just removal.
Yeah, certainly a removal.
But I think Timothy's just going to play Hero Blowhole here.
Oh man. Then it's he's asking the question, do you have go for the throw? Do you have dismember? If you don't, I'm gonna win.
Yeah. Maybe not.
I think I like doubling up on Squadron Hockey actually.
Yeah, Gatekeeper exists.
Yeah, like I think you
Core
just want,
Firewalker.
Okay, Core Firewalker, sure.
So he has the last Squadron Hawk in his hand, it looks like already. Didn't have to search for it.
I think you just want to clog up the board, force Matthew to use his removal in this tight situation. Then you can play Hero and steal the game away.
That's fair. You are not really under much pressure. Highborn hits play.
Okay. Takes 2 from that Bloodghast. Alright, draws card.
Looks like he also has a Day of Judgment in his hand, but we'll see.
Good morning, Magic players.
That cluster Highborn's going to be an issue. He's got to get rid of that Highborn.
He does, in fact.
We have 228 players today.
228 players for Legacy. That's pretty impressive.
9 rounds of Swiss before
9-round Legacy event today.
Wow.
This is competitive REL. That means that
So,
the focus is on
if you're Timothy, do you like an attack and Day of Judgment here? Or is that too greedy?
So please
Yeah, it's just a Bloodghast and a Highborn. I think you can wait for a little more value.
questions about rules interaction
Timothy plays a Inkmoth
or
Nexus.
Any infractions occur in your game, please
Gets in there
call
for
the
1
judge
damage.
immediately. When a floor judge rules on your match, you have the right to appeal. If you would like to appeal, notify the judge.
Timothy
The
plays
judge
the
will
last
come to
Squadron
me.
Hawks.
My ruling on any match is
And that looks
final.
like another Core Firewalker.
Tardiness today will be enforced at 0 and 10 minutes. The official round clock is this clock right up by the stage.
Alright.
Clogging the board is definitely
Just like
happening right now.
yesterday,
Yeah.
we will not have
That's
a
exactly what that deck
countdown
wants to
timer
do.
for rounds, but we will have time
Serves
for
with the
round
Highborn.
posted
I
around
Immediately
the
trade.
I think you just trade really quickly,
I
yeah.
think you double block actually with both Firewalkers in case he just says, oh crap, I don't really want to make this trade.
Please check that
Just
your
punish it as much
names
as
on your
possible.
deck list, that you
Yeah,
have
he's just-
60
I mean, do you like
cards
Hawk
at least
on the
registered
Bloodghast
in your
more?
main deck.
No,
Oh.
I'm saying I think you put,
Oh, put
two
both
Firewalkers.
Firewalkers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like it's like, oh wait, this block's not going to turn out well for me. Maybe I just don't want to do this, and kills the Firewalker.
Oh.
Instead, he just drains for 2.
Wow, that trade seems incredible for Timothy.
It really does.
Because that Highborn was something Timothy needed to get off the board. He would happily trade that away.
immediately had to get that off the board. Now he can start making blocks on the Bloodghast without losing life. You know, maybe he doesn't need all of the Squadron Hawks or something.
All right, players, please
Looks like a
have your
Preordain's
table
gonna hit.
number in the upper right
Preordain
corner of your
for
deck
Timothy.
list.
1 on top.
Judges,
One on
please
bottom.
collect deck lists.
Alright, draws a card. And is it hero time? Or is that too greedy?
No, that's definitely not too greedy.
Huh.
You're the beatdown. That attack may have been too greedy. I think you may have wanted to leave back a Squadron Hawks to just bust under that.
Yeah, I just like
Bloodghast.
trading with that Bloodghast till you can get like
He
Timothy.
doesn't have lands. You just. Oh.
Oh wow! He's forced me to use that dismember.
Taking 2, 4, going to 16.
I mean, to me that signals Matthew has another hero in his hand, or has another removal spell in his hand. But I think you still just jam the hero.
He might also just be afraid of Firewalker. He might.
Posted. Please just hang tight in your seats for just a moment.
Tim does have 5 mana, it looks like, available, so he could have any threat in his deck but Sun Titan. So just a Blade Splicer hits play, but that might be enough.
Yeah, that Blade Splicer is going to be a big issue for Matthew.
Yeah.
I think what Tim's doing is just trying to bleed Matthew out of removal so he can drop down his hero and steal the game away.
Yeah, I think he could be a little bit more aggressive with it, but I mean, Blade Splicer is definitely correct. I don't know. We'll see. He kind of needs to finish a bit quicker than he is, I feel like, but he does in fact have the...
Yeah,
I think this game just changed drastically once Matthew traded away the Highborn was the issue.
Yeah, the Highborn was the limiting factor on Timothy before.
Right, and now he just has all the time in the world.
Right.
So I think you just have to throw the Blade Splicer.
I kind of like trading with the Bloody Guys. You just want to run him out of...
You
just want to run him out of lands, run him out of options.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, no.
Plays land post-combat.
Goes to 8.
Timothy drops to 8. I don't think you want to accidentally get burned out here.
Yeah, I think the way he was trading for those Firewalkers signifies that he has a lot of burn in his hand. I don't think you want to get into that situation. Tectonic Edge gets used on a land. Doesn't wait to double Tectonic Edge. But probably just wants his 5 mana so he can cast Gideon's or Elspeth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Gideon would obviously be incredible here.
Yeah, as would Elspeth, as would Sun Titan, as would...
Elspeth would actually probably be better than Gideon in this instance.
Yeah.
Like, gaining the life right now is super, super relevant.
Matthew, in response to this Tectonic Edge, is going to Lightning Bolt.
When your opponent's at 8 and they Lightning Bolt your Hawk, huh?
Yeah.
That's either means Matthew has a lot of burn in his hand or he's going for a different play route than we expected.
Yeah, maybe he feels like this Bloodghast is going to be able to grind out Timothy. Feels like Timothy is maybe light on action.
Perhaps. Timothy, it serves for 2.
Matthew goes to 14.
It's pretty aggressive.
3. Is this another Blade Splicer or an Oblivion Ring?
Another
Blade Splicer.
I still like blocking the Bloodghast last turn, but
I like leaving up an Inkmoth Nexus, I think, but I don't know. I don't know if you really need to Tectonic Edge this Vampires matchup so much. Like, what spells does he have that are gonna cost that much mana? I think I'd rather just leave off Inkmoth Nexus in case I really want to, make a block or something. I mean, maybe Timothy doesn't want to trade off his 5th land, but I think there's more utility to that. Especially if you don't want to trade off your 5th land, because it's a looks like a Dismember on the Golem token.
All right, so hard to cast Dismember. Now Timothy
has to. Yeah,
he's got a block here. Yeah, and he blocks. Does Matthew have the land? Matthew does not. But if he does draw one, or is holding one, the Bloodghast will have haste. Yeah. All right, 3 mana for a sword. Oh my. Wow. And no mana untapped for Matthew. No Dismember in sight. Timothy serves in for 4. That's going to mean that Matthew has to discard a card, drops to 10 life, and Timothy gets to double up on all of his lands this turn.
Yeah, and it also means that pretty soon that hero is going to be completely unstoppable.
Yeah, I think it's time for a hero.
Yeah.
Matthew's going to be down to 1 card. Either he kept a threat or he kept the removal spell. And if he kept the removal spell, then you still have the advantage with your creatures. His discards go for the throat.
And that is the hero.
Now...
Feature matches for this round from table 2.
Yeah, there's Hero Bladehold.
Albion Causey versus Rocky Harris. From table 7 to the venture table.
Matthew not looking happy about this. Are we going to see a Cobblade the champion?
From table 8 to the Garou table, AJ Soccer versus Josh Weinendy. And from table 13 to the Liliana table, Matt McCauley versus Ruben Bressler.
Oh man.
Players in the Legacy Open, your parents are now posted. Please find
what
your
is
seats
Matthew going to do
around
to get himself out of this one? What 2 cards could he have? Could he have Go for the Throat plus a land?
He needs a Crush and a 2 mana Life Finale at this point, I think.
I mean, he could... So if you go for the Throat's the hero... Okay, so he has a land for the Bloodghast.
Yeah.
And his other card, I think, needs to be Go for the Throat or Dismember.
Yeah.
To have a shot. If that hero attacks...
I mean, even then, I think you're still in a really bad position because of all the lands.
All right, he attacks with Bloodghast. Tim doesn't want to open himself up to a Lightning Bolt.
No. He could have...
All right, go to combat. And serves, I think that's it. That's lethal, right? 3, 4, 5, 6.
It is in fact lethal.
Is that it? Do we have a Cobblade champion here?
We do, in fact.
Reveals Gatekeeper. That's it. Congratulations to Timothy Pskowski, your champion of the Star City Games Open series here in Cincinnati, Ohio, with Cobblade.
Don't need Stoneforge. Don't need Jace. Just need blue-white.
That is absolutely insane. I thought this deck was going to be a little more, take a little bit more time to come up under the radar. I wrote about it for next week, but in my article, and apparently not. People had it this week and ended up winning the whole tournament.
Yeah, it looks like we do have a winner for our Gen Con Indianapolis badge giveaway.
Congratulations to B. Parisi.
Yes.
You just won a badge to Gen Con. The question was, where is Gen Con? And the answer?
Indianapolis.
So if you are B. Parisi right now, start making your travel plans to Indianapolis to go to Gen Con.
Yep.
It's going to be a fabulous time. Maybe you're going already. I don't know. But it's going to be an absolutely fabulous experience. You're going to want to be there. I'm going to be there. Ari's going to be there. Numerous pros from around the country are going to be there. And we're going to be drafting M12 at Nationals. We're going to be playing our standard decks. And if you're not qualified, if you don't grind in, there's still all the side events you can play and all the other things you can do at Gen Con. It's going to be a phenomenal experience. And I think we will be trying to get to a legacy match shortly.
Yes.
Congratulations, Timothy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's going to be pretty busy working on filling out his little legacy deck registration sheet.
Probably.
But for those who didn't hear the announcements in the background during the finals, the Legacy Open has actually already started. Feature matches are underway for the first round.
There were 228 players, I believe.
228 players, 9 rounds of Swiss.
Yeah.
So
9 rounds of Swiss should see everything and anything.
yeah, could be anything at this point, and we'll hopefully have a feature match for you soon. We heard over the intercom that Alian Trazi is someone in a feature match this round.
Yeah.
A couple other name players
Yeah.
have a feature match. So
Some Midwest locals like Ruben Bresler.
yeah, exactly. There's some options. So we'll see who we have under the lights. In the meantime, congratulations to Tim, winner of the Standard Open with Cobblade of all decks.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
You'd think that the format would maybe move away. A lot of people were saying, oh, Valakut and Splinter Twin are unbeatable. There's no way to fight them. There are all these new decks popping up, Birthing Pod, Tempered Steel, but here we are, Vampires and Callblade, yet again.
Do we feel like maybe with Cobblade, players just stuck to what they knew? Maybe there are actually better decks out there. Maybe blue-black is better. Maybe a different deck is better. And players are like, well, I've played this deck so much in the Star City Games Opens before, I'm just going to play this deck again. Do you think that was a factor?
Not really. I think that the Callblade deck really went under the radar at first and just kind of started picking up on Magic Online after a while, and then people started seeing, oh wait, this deck's actually winning, and it's not unbeatable. It's not what it was before. It's just a good deck.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's merely a good deck and good enough to win an Open. We'll see how it holds